Hello and welcome to the cesspool, and welcome back to the 25 Days Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. I truly hope it is a good one. I also hope that all two people who actually watched the little model railroading video enjoyed that one, because today we're back again. Well, today part 2. We're back again on the floor talking about stupid Nintendo garbage because, you know, I'm very unoriginal. I clearly, everybody says I'm unoriginal, and I am. I know I am. But I'm doing this for fun. It's not like it's not a job or anything. Just doing it. But anyway, quick one. It's gonna be a quick one. A small one, you could say, because we're talking about the Gameboy Micro. What the fuck is the Gameboy Micro? Nobody knows what the hell this thing is. I've taken this places, and people have thought it was like a third-party, not an emulator, but one of those, third-party portables that play Game Boy games and stuff like that. And man, it's so small. I gotta zoom it in more. But yes, this guy, it's funny because people, and they see like, oh, it's camo because this has a this is just one of the faceplates that this thing came with. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but. People see this thing and they're like, oh, wow, that's a cool little portable, like little Game Boy player that you got there. I'm like, this is an actual Game Boy. Like, it says it right here on the back. It's Game Boy. Game Boy Micro, to be exact. But this is a really cool little device. It's probably my favorite Game Boy that I own. And I own a few of them. So, why does this exist, though? That's kind of the million-dollar question with this guy. It's a good question, because this was 2005. The Game Boy Advance originally came out, the original model came out in 2001. So, they got this thing to be a lot smaller in 4 years. Very, very impressive. Not only that, this has a lit display. It's an all-metal design. This is entirely made of metal, unlike this, which is all plastic. It has these interchangeable faceplates, which are super cool. It's a sleek little device. It's a really, really pretty little device, honestly. It's very premium. It's really, really nice. Really nice. I love playing on this little guy. And this is actually something that you can really just like slip in your pocket, with your phone or your wallet. I wouldn't put my keys with this, but with your phone or your wallet, and you can just take this plate, pick it, take it out, have like, Dr. Mario and Puzzle League, which is the game I usually keep in this thing. Just flip it out, while you're waiting, doing something, play around, shut her off, put her back in your pocket, you're done. This is getting a little big, and this is still pretty small, But this is truly like, you could put this in a shirt pocket, and it's great. I've done that at work a few times. But why does this exist? Because there's a big dual screen size hole between these releases and, of course, the other Game Boy Advances. And that's the DS. So what happened here? Why are we now at the point where this came out? Pretty big success. People liked it. Year later, this comes out. My guess is that they probably, a couple things. At the time of this guy's release, they were still marketing it as a third pillar away from the Game Boy Advance, or the Game Boy line. We're going to continue the Game Boy line, and the DS will be its own little thing separate, even though it was backwards compatible with the Game Boy Advance, and they labeled it as backwards compatible. So clearly this is supposed to be a successor if you're saying it's backwards compatible, not just compatible. This is quite literally a Game Boy Advance with better games that can be played on it too, or more technologically advanced games that can play on it too, and a unique gimmick compared to these. So what made Nintendo go out and actually release this guy? Well, if I were to guess, this was probably in development before this guy released. I imagine the SP came out and they're like, well, we need like a third one to kind of replace this original model. Let's just do this. We're working on the DS. We don't know if it's going to work out, but let's have another Game Boy, like a revised version of the long Game Boy, the more horizontal Game Boy style. Let's have that available for the case where the DS doesn't do well and we need to kind of pull them from shelves or rework it or whatever. because they didn't know that this was a big mystery at the time. And obviously it was a huge success, but they're like, well, we already developed this thing, and this is kind of supposed to be our premium little model. It's all all metal. It's nice. It's got the interchangeable faceplates. We developed all this stuff. Let's just put it out, I guess. And they did, and it didn't sell very well. They sold like a couple million of these, maybe, compared to like 80 million Game Boy Advance, like original game or full size Game Boy Advances and the SPs and everything. And obviously the DS went away and sold over 150 million units. So that really left the Game Boy Micro as being one of the most obscure little things ever. But, and I would even say, let me say what I'm going to say first before I even say it. This might have the best screen of the Game Boys, the DS's, until the DSi. And people might say, oh, well, the Lite, that had a pretty decent screen. It did. And a very nice screen, especially in comparison to this original guy. However, I maintain that this has the nicest little screen. It's such a premium little experience. I don't even remember what game is in here. I think it was a Mario Advance game, but we're about to find out. Or the game is not going to load. Game is not going to load. Okay, it's working. But yes, this little screen right here, it's crisp, it's really clean, it's bright, and if we jump into Mario World here, like, this looks fantastic. It really does when you look at it compared to everything else that was on the handheld at the time, or every other like handheld screen at the time. This was seriously in a different league. It really was. If you obviously compared to the not lit displays of the original Game Boy Advance, like, yeah, this is going to be a million times better. But compared to this, like, oh my god, the screens on this sucked. The SP screens were alright, but not nearly as clean and crisp as this. And you could argue that even the DS Lite here did not have as nice of screens. And yes, I know it's dirty. They're pretty alright. Like, don't get me wrong, these are pretty good. These are pretty alright. Got Crosswords DS in here. But I would argue, honestly, that the Game Boy Micro has a more crisp screen. Now, it's obviously way smaller. But it's kind of crazy that they were able to, in 2005, that we had gone 4 years and the screen had been able to get shrunk so much. I mean, a Game Boy Advance cartridge is almost the same size as this thing. It's very impressive, like, because the cartridge goes in there. There's not a lot of room for you to fit all the electronics that you need. And they did, and it's really impressive. This is one of my favorite things that I own, game console-wise. It's super cool. And I can't recommend enough that everyone give one a try, if you can find one, because, dear God, these things are expensive. But yeah, I just kind of want to briefly talk about the Game Boy Micro, just because I think it's a cool little device. And did it need to exist? Absolutely not. It was definitely an afterthought of development after the DS was a success. They're like, well, we just got to put this thing out. I don't know. We'll see if the Game Boy line will survive. And it didn't, ultimately. But, did this extend it? Probably not. I think they just kept making decent games for it for a few more years, and then that was kind of the end of it. Fizzled out with the DSi when it came out, took out the Game Boy Advance slot, and that was the end of the story. The only downside of this puppy is it doesn't fit original Game Boy cartridges, but that's because I think the Game Boy cartridges are like twice as big as it, which is a joke that has been made before. So anyway, that's all I have to say about the Game Boy Micro. It doesn't want to focus. It's so small, it can't focus on it. I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Whatever you celebrate, I truly hope it is a good one. I don't know when the next video will be, except I do. This time, it is tomorrow, and I will see you guys then.